Andrew's cheeks were hot from embarrassment at the condescending tone of Kostoen's instructions to his babysitter. Kostoen was right. There wasn't anything he could do with an infant's body to give a woman pleasure other than nurse at her teats. Even if he could control his body enough to do anything, the instincts of his infant body were working against him. Andrew's eyes glanced down at his feet idly, giving him a quick view of the knuckles of his right hand next to his face. Oh Jesus, he thought to himself, I'm sucking my thumb in front of Amber. What next? He asked himself as he continued to suck his thumb. Kostoen smiled and said gravely, he looks so sweet sitting there sucking his thumb. I hope his adoptive mother considers breastfeeding him for a time. It would give the both of them so much pleasure. It's a terrible fate to be born and have to live your life as an eternal infant. Aside from peeing and pooping his diapers, he doesn't have many pleasures to look forward to in life. He'll never make love to a woman or read a good book. He won't even learn the pleasures of adult conversation. Maybe his new mother will take pity on him and let him nurse at her breasts for a few years before she gets tired of the bother and puts him on the bottle permanently. She knew that Amber would be on the phone to invite one of her boyfriends over the minute she heard the deadbolt slam home. She wasn't worried about what Amber did in her absence. If she wanted to listen in on the house, all she had to do was dial her home phone and enter a sequence of numbers on the keypad of her cell phone. The phones in the nursery bathroom and family room had an extra circuit added that allowed the transmitter on the speakerphone to be turned on remotely, even if the phone was on the hook. She could call and listen to the highly amplified sound from the speakerphone without anyone knowing that she was hearing everything that was going on. Even if Amber was using the phone to talk to her boyfriend, the call waiting feature of her phone made it possible to listen in on Amber and hear what was going on. Her security precautions had been complex and expensive, but it was cheaper than being hauled into court on kidnapping charges. Kostoen may have used an ancient arcane magic to transform men into infants, but she believed strongly in using the newest magic of technology to hold onto them until they were sold. As Amber politely followed her to the doorway, Kostoen made a small detour in the living room to get a chocolate-covered cherry from the sterling silver box on the coffee table. She opened it up, withdrew a single chocolate and said to Amber as she took a tiny warded silver key from a small pocket in her black Moroccan leather zippered key case and locked the container of chocolates, "Oh yes, Dio, try to keep out of my chocolate box. I know the exact count of the remaining chocolates because I have them handmade for me in Belgium and keep a tally of every one I eat for reordering purposes. If you become desperate for chocolate, there's a large bar of Hershey's Symphony milk chocolate in the pantry that you may have. These chocolates are off limits. Have I made myself clearly understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Amber answered emphatically. She had no intention of getting between Kostoen and her favorite imported chocolates. She got the distinct impression that if she did, she herself would be the next thing Kostoen's jaws would be biting down on. "Very good," Kostoen said, popping the chocolate in her mouth as she went to the front door. Amber closed the door behind her and heard her key in the lock throwing the deadbolt home. Amber could unlatch the lock so she wasn't worried. She returned to the family room to find Jim standing at the side of his playpen with his diaper drooping halfway to his knees. While the two women had left the room, Andrew had attempted to stand up at the side of the playpen. What Andrew hadn't planned on was the propensity for infant boys to evacuate themselves in that position. The minute he had stood up, the previously semi-choked path of his urethra was clear and his bladder voided its full contents instantly. Within seconds, the heavy stream of urine made his diaper sopping wet and caused it to droop dangerously low on his hips. Amber ignored Jim's obviously soggy diaper for the moment and picked up the phone in the family room the minute she heard Kostoen's car drive away. As an experienced babysitter, she knew that a few more minutes in a wet diaper wouldn't hurt him. Besides, from the silly grin on the baby's face, he was perfectly happy lolling in the warmth of his soaking diaper. She promised herself that the minute she got off the phone with her boyfriend, she'd get him changed into a clean diaper. Despite her taste for sexually teasing her male classmates, Amber was a conscientious babysitter. She loved taking care of babies and didn't mind at all changing dirty diapers. There was a purity to infants that brought out the maternal instinct in her that was missing in her boyfriends. Although her DNA-driven instinct attracted her to the most virile men in her age group, she subconsciously wished she could find a male who both physically good-looking and wealthy while at the same time requiring the mothering that she lavished on the infants that she babysat. Once she got Brad, her current paramour, on the phone, she invited him over to keep her company at Keowastoen's house while she was babysitting. Brad accepted immediately and asked for directions. She gave explicit directions to Keowastoen's house and got off the phone as soon as humanly possible so she could change his diaper. While Andrew sat in the playpen absent-mindedly sucking his thumb as he listened to her chat with her new boyfriend, Jimmy's infant mind recovered from its fugue state and passively watched while Andrew maintained control of their joined body. He had gotten over his enthrallment with his new caretaker somewhat and listened to Keowastoen cooing on the phone to her boyfriend with interest. Although Jimmy didn't understand a word she said, but the emotional import was clear enough for even an infant's mind. The warm, wet diaper that covered Andrew's bottom didn't disturb him at all. If anything, it made him feel more comfortable. He didn't mind sitting in the slippery muck that slimed his bottom. The sensation of sliding around in his diaper whenever Andrew moved gave him a joyous, happy feeling. Andrew was disgusted by being made to sit in a mass of filth while his erstwhile babysitter made sophomoric small talk with her teenaged paramour. He wanted his diaper to be changed immediately. How could she sit there and talk with her boyfriend so nonchalantly when her charge needed care? Andrew was disgusted by the smell of the dirty diaper and wondered how she could put up with it. Andrew had had enough. He was determined to make himself understood. He started to call to Amber and was dismayed to discover that he had unknowingly made himself unable to talk by putting his thumb in his mouth. Andrew ripped his thumb from his mouth in disgust and said in as loud a voice as his tiny larynx and lungs could muster, "In the name of God, help me, Amber. Get me out of here. I'm not a real baby. I'm older than you are. I'm a college student that Keowastoen has cast a spell on. Please help me. If you can't help me, then at least change my diapers, they're wet and filthy." Andrew was so excited that he didn't listen to the words that came out of his mouth. If he had, his plea for succor would have died after the first few words. All that Amber heard was, "Namgar Barmabar, Gimu Ua, Emmamamen Rurbaba, Amolga Nayuga, Makala Stuuda Kristakista Spallan, Breeserbma, Iga Erbma, Mamaga Cha Darbas, Drera Atada Day."